After my daughter and her husband hit $87 million in the lottery, he stood in my kitchen, pointed at the front door, and told me to pack before sunrise. He said the house felt too old for their new life, and I was the dust still stuck to it. My daughter stared at the floor. I smiled, because there was one thing he had not checked. One quiet receipt folded in my wallet, and by the end of that week his name would be attached to a police report instead of a prize claim. "You heard me, Martin," Trevor said, tapping the granite counter like he was already the owner of it. "Start with your clothes, leave the furniture, leave the truck. Honestly, leave the memories too. Nobody wants to smell old grief in every room." I stood beside the sink, with my hands still wet from rinsing my coffee mug. Emily, my daughter, leaned against the fridge with her arms tight across her chest. She looked like a person waiting for a storm to choose a window. Trevor smiled at me. "A man your age should be grateful when family offers him a softer landing." We found a senior apartment complex outside Salem. Clean little place. Bingo nights, nurses, people who understand when someone repeats himself. "I don't repeat myself," I said. "You just did." Emily flinched. Trevor enjoyed that. "Trevor," she whispered. He turned on her fast. "No, we are not doing the sentimental father-daughter routine. Your father gave us a ticket. The ticket won. Now we decide what our life looks like. And this museum of sadness is not it." I dried my hands on a dish towel. The kitchen clock ticked above the pantry. My late wife's yellow curtains moved in the draft from the old window. Trevor had always hated those curtains, said they made the house look like a thrift store. Susan had sewn them herself. "You want me out," I said. "I want you safe," Trevor said, making his voice soft, almost tender. "See, that's the difference. You hear an attack because your pride is rotting your brain." I looked at Emily. "Is that what you want?" Her mouth opened. Nothing came out. Trevor answered for her. "She wants peace. She wants a husband who can finally give her a future. You had decades to be useful, Martin. Let the young people handle the rest." I nodded once. "That's it?" Trevor said. "No speech? No begging?" "No," I said. "I just needed to hear how stupid you were willing to sound out loud." His smile broke for half a second. That was enough for me. "My name is Martin Hayes. I was 68 that spring, retired from the Bend Parks Department after 39 years of fixing irrigation lines, clearing trails, repairing playground equipment, and getting phone calls at odd hours because a public restroom had flooded or a tree had fallen across a bike path. I was not rich. I was not polished. I was the kind of man who carried a pocket knife, knew the sound of a bad water pump, and believed a house should be quiet only when everyone inside it felt safe. The house stood on a side street in Bend, Oregon, not far from the old mill district, a low cedar-sided place with a long porch, a detached workshop, 2 maple trees, and a gravel strip where Susan used to park her Subaru. Susan and I bought it when Emily was small. We painted it ourselves. We tore out the old carpet. We planted lavender beside the walkway because Susan said a home should smell alive before you even touched the door. Susan died after a short, brutal illness. I won't dress that up. She was laughing with me in February and gone by June. After the funeral, the house became too still. I kept her mug in the cabinet. I kept her gardening gloves in the mudroom. I kept breathing because that was what the body did even after the world stopped making sense. Emily and Trevor moved in the following winter. She said it would be temporary. He had lost a sales job at a solar company. Their rent in Portland had jumped. They needed time. I opened the door because she was my daughter, and because any father who says no to a scared child has to live with the sound of that no forever. At first, they were almost kind. Emily cooked pasta on Sundays. Trevor shoveled snow without being asked. He called me Mr. Hayes in a joking way that felt respectful enough. Then the months softened into years. Respect became familiarity. Familiarity became permission. Permission became ownership. Trevor started small. He moved Susan's reading chair from the living room to the garage because it killed the vibe. He replaced the framed family photos in the hallway with black and white prints of mountains he bought online. He told Emily it was healthier for me to stop living in a shrine. I put one photo of Susan back on the mantle. The next morning, it was turned face down. When I asked who did it, Trevor said, "Maybe the house is tired of looking backward too." Emily said nothing. That was the part that cut deepest, not the insult. Silence has sharper teeth when it comes from your own child. By the time they had been living with me for 8 years, Trevor did not ask before inviting people over, changing locks on the side gate, painting the guest room, or using my workshop for storage. His friends called my place Trevor's Bend House. I heard it once through the open kitchen window while I was trimming a hedge. "Nice setup," one of them said. Trevor laughed. "Yeah, we're just waiting for the paperwork of life to catch up." I stood outside with the hedge clippers in my hand and felt something in my chest go cold. My only real company then was Gary Whitcomb, my neighbor 2 doors down. Gary was a retired mail carrier with bad knees, a loud laugh, and a habit of showing up when I least wanted to admit I needed someone. His wife, Patricia, baked cornbread that could make a depressed man believe in lunch again. They never pushed. They just made room. One Tuesday afternoon, Gary found me in the workshop sanding a small cedar box I had started for no reason, except that my hands needed a task. "You hiding again?" he asked. "Working. Same thing. If you're doing it to avoid your own kitchen." I didn't answer. Gary leaned against the doorframe. "Come with me to the gas station. Lottery jackpot's stupid high. Patricia says I'm not allowed to waste money alone anymore. I don't play. You don't do a lot of things lately. That's the problem." I looked at him. He shrugged. "Buy a ticket. Pretend the universe still knows your address." So I went. I bought 2 quick-pick tickets at a Chevron on 3rd Street. The clerk, a college kid with earbuds around his neck, printed them and slid them across the counter. I paid with my debit card. The receipt printed next. I folded it automatically and tucked it into my wallet the way I tucked away every receipt, because years of maintaining public budgets had taught me that paper beats memory when people start lying. When I got home, Emily was making soup. Real soup, not something from a pouch. The smell of onions and thyme hit me so hard, I had to stop in the doorway. Susan used to make soup when the rain came sideways. Emily looked up. "Hey, Dad." For a second, she sounded like herself. I took one of the tickets from my jacket pocket and held it out. "Gary bullied me into buying these. Here. Maybe you and Trevor can split a fantasy." She smiled, small but real. "Thanks, Dad." Trevor walked in from the living room and plucked it from her fingers. "Lottery?" he said. "That's adorable. What are you going to buy if you win, Martin?" "A sharper lawn rake?" "A quieter house," I said. Emily looked at me. Trevor laughed, but not comfortably. I put the second ticket in the drawer of my nightstand beneath Susan's old reading glasses and forgot about it. Not because I was careless, because ordinary people do not believe the little slips of paper in their drawers are about to turn into weapons. 3 nights later, the scream came from the kitchen. I was in the workshop oiling a plane blade when I heard Emily shout, "Trevor, Trevor, look at this." I stepped into the house. Emily stood by the island with her phone in one hand and the lottery ticket in the other. Her face had gone pale, then red, then pale again. Trevor rushed in wearing a headset from whatever online meeting he was pretending mattered. "What?" "The numbers," she whispered. "They match. All of them." Trevor ripped the ticket from her hand. He checked the phone. Checked the ticket. Checked the phone again. His whole body changed. I saw it happen. His shoulders lifted. His chin rose. His eyes stopped being frightened and became hungry. "We won," he said. Emily started crying. Trevor did not hug her. He grabbed his phone and began pacing. "No, not a joke," he said into the phone. "I need someone who handles major claims. Private. Fast. Yes. Oregon. $87 million. He walked past me like I was a coat rack. That night, after a few hours of whispered calls behind closed doors, Trevor summoned me into my own kitchen. He did not say please. He sat at the table with a legal pad in front of him. Emily stood by the sink. "Our situation has changed," he said. I noticed. "Good. Then don't make this ugly." "Make what ugly?" He placed a printed brochure on the table. It showed a cheerful older couple walking under fake autumn trees. "Willow Creek Senior Living," he said. "They have openings. Month to month. Meals included." I looked at the brochure, then at him. "You want to put me in a facility." I want to relocate you to a healthier environment. From my house. From a house that no longer works for any of us. Works fine for me. Trevor leaned back. Martin, let's not be childish. This property is dated. The land is valuable. With the winnings, Emily and I can tear this place down and build something with actual taste, or sell it and move west. But we cannot start our life with you wandering around here like a guilt trip in slippers. Emily covered her mouth. Say something, I told her. Trevor snapped his fingers once. Don't put her in the middle. She is my daughter. She has been in the middle since she decided silence was safer than honesty. Emily began to cry quietly. Trevor's face hardened. Careful. We have already spoken with someone about your condition. My condition? Forgetfulness, isolation, mood instability, possible decline. You leave burners on. You misplace bills. You talk to your dead wife. The room shrank around me. I have never left a burner on. Can you prove that? I stared at him. He smiled. That's the thing about decline. The person declining is always the last one to know. Trevor, Emily said, barely audible. He turned on her. Do you want peace or not? She shut down again. Trevor slid the brochure closer. Sign the house over voluntarily. Let us manage the claim, and we will take care of you. Fight us, and I will file for guardianship. You are an old widower, living alone except for us. A judge will listen. Social services will listen. Banks will listen. You rehearsed that. I prepared it. Smart people prepare. I stood there with the brochure under my hand, and the smell of Susan's curtains in the air. For 1 second, I was afraid. Not of Trevor's voice. Of the system he was willing to use like a hammer. A man can survive being insulted. Losing the right to decide his own life is different. I went upstairs without answering. In the bedroom, I sat on Susan's side of the bed. I did that when I needed to think. Her nightstand still had a faint ring from the water glass she used every night. I opened my drawer for no reason I could name. Maybe habit, maybe God, maybe Susan kicking me under the table from wherever she was. The second ticket lay under her reading glasses. I stared at it. Then I pulled out my phone and checked the numbers. Every number matched. My hands started shaking so hard I had to put the phone down. I checked again, then a third time. Same numbers, same draw, same jackpot. I took out my wallet. The receipt was still folded behind my library card. 2 tickets. 1 debit card transaction. My name on the card. My proof. Trevor thought he had the only winning ticket because greed makes people count what they grabbed, not what they missed. I slept with the ticket inside an envelope under my pillow. At dawn, I called Gary. You sound like you swallowed a nail, he said. I need Patricia's niece's number, the lawyer. He went quiet. What happened? Trevor tried to steal my house. And I think he just made the worst mistake of his life. Patricia's niece was Dana Whitaker, a family and estate attorney in Eugene, who had the calm voice of someone who never raised it because she never had to. Gary drove me to her office because he said my hands were too angry for a steering wheel. Dana listened without interrupting. I showed her the ticket, the receipt, the bank charge on my phone, and the brochure Trevor had pushed across my kitchen table. She read everything twice. You bought both tickets, she said. Yes. You handed one to your daughter casually. Yes. No written transfer. No agreement. No pool. No shared purchase. No. Dana sat back. Then we move fast. We notify the Oregon Lottery of a disputed claim. We tell them there are 2 winning tickets purchased by the same person in one transaction. We ask them to freeze payout until ownership is reviewed. Then we protect you from the guardianship threat. Can he really do that? He can try. People can try many stupid things. Our job is to make stupid expensive. I liked her immediately. By late afternoon, Dana had filed the dispute notice, sent copies of the receipt, and drafted a letter warning Trevor not to harass, coerce, or financially exploit me. When I returned home, Trevor was waiting in the living room. His face was flushed. Emily sat on the sofa, with both hands pressed between her knees. What did you do? Trevor said. I set my keys in the bowl by the door. I made a phone call. You froze our claim. No, I froze my claim. He laughed once, sharp and ugly. Your claim? You gave that ticket to Emily. I bought it. You gave it away. I gave her paper worth a few dollars. I did not give you permission to use it as a crowbar against my life. Trevor stepped close enough for me to smell his mint gum. Listen to me, old man. You are going to withdraw that dispute tonight. No. Then I bury you. Competency hearing. Guardianship. Elder decline. Emotional instability. I will make every person in this town see you as a confused, bitter relic, trying to steal from his own daughter. Emily whispered, Stop. Trevor did not stop. You think anyone cares about your sad little love story with Susan? You think a dead woman's curtains make you noble? This house is wood and nails. You are a tired man sitting on a pile of value you did not even know how to use. I felt the words hit. I let them. Then I looked him in the eye. You keep calling me tired, I said, but you are the one sweating. He blinked. Get out of my way, I said. I walked past him and went to my room. Behind me, he shouted, This is not over. I believed him. The next morning, my bank called. A branch manager named Melissa Grant spoke carefully, the way people do when a recorded line matters. Mr. Hayes, did you authorize a durable power of attorney naming Trevor Reed as your financial agent? I sat down at the kitchen table. No, that is what we suspected. The signature did not match your file. We rejected the document and placed a temporary security hold on outgoing transfers. Mr. Hayes, the document was submitted yesterday afternoon. By Trevor. The appointment was requested by Mr. Reed, yes. For a moment, the house went silent in a way I had never heard before. Even the fridge hum sounded far away. What would it have allowed him to do? Melissa exhaled softly. If accepted, he could have moved funds, closed accounts, requested checks, changed mailing addresses, and initiated loans or lines of credit in your name. Trevor had not only threatened me, he had gone to the bank with a forged document and tried to put his hand inside every account I owned. The fear from the night before hardened into something clean. I called Dana. She said, Do not speak to him. Forward me the bank email. Then file a police report. Today. Police? Yes. Fraud, forgery, attempted financial exploitation of an elder. He turned this into a criminal matter. Let him enjoy the vocabulary. At the police station, an officer named Reeves took my statement. He was younger than my work boots, but serious enough. He read the bank's email, looked at the copy of the rejected power of attorney, and stopped tapping his pen. Your son-in-law did this while fighting over a lottery claim? Yes. That is not subtle. Trevor has never confused subtle with smart. Officer Reeves almost smiled. I left with a case number and a copy of my statement. When I got home, Trevor had placed a vase of grocery store roses on the kitchen island. He came in wearing the face of a man who had changed costumes too fast. Martin, he said softly, we need to reset. I looked at the roses. Did they come with an apology or a receipt? His jaw twitched. I got heated, he said. You got defensive. Things escalated. But we are family. Emily is miserable. You are putting her through hell. I am? Yes. She is caught between her husband and a father who would rather punish her than share a blessing. You forged my name. He raised both palms. That was a misunderstanding. My signature on a legal document is not a misunderstanding. I was trying to simplify things. You are overwhelmed. I reached for the roses, lifted the vase, and poured the water into the sink. Trevor's eyes went cold. Careful, Martin. Pride is expensive. So is bail. The vase slipped in his hand when I said it. Just a little. Enough. Emily appeared in the doorway. Bail? She whispered. Trevor spun toward her. Go upstairs. What did you do? I said go upstairs. I looked at my daughter. Ask the bank. Trevor moved toward me. You poisonous old son of a Kominik. Finish that sentence, I said. I could use another quote for the file. He stopped. That night, Emily knocked on my bedroom door for the first time in months. Dad? I opened it. She stood barefoot in the hall, eyes red. Did he really forge your signature? Yes. He said it was paperwork. You forgot signing. He lies better when he thinks you need him. She flinched. I don't know what to believe, she said. Then start with what you saw, not what he explained afterward. Her face crumpled, but she backed away before I could say more. Trauma has its own gravity. Sometimes a person reaches for the floor because standing up feels too dangerous. Trevor's next move came 2 days later. Adult Protective Services sent a caseworker named Denise Howard to my house. She wore a navy cardigan, carried a tablet, and had tired eyes that missed nothing. Mr. Hayes, we received a report expressing concern about your safety and decision-making. From my son-in-law. I cannot disclose the reporting party. You don't have to. I let her in. Trevor had expected me to slam the door, panic, look paranoid. Instead, I made coffee, showed her the kitchen, the labeled medication box in my bathroom, the clean workshop, the paid utility bills, my calendar, my driver's license, my bank statements, and the binder Dana had told me to assemble. Denise asked questions. What day is it? I answered. Who is the governor of Oregon? I answered. Do you cook for yourself? Yes. Last night was chicken stew. The leftovers are in the fridge with a label because I live alone with people who steal both food and peace. She looked up from her tablet. That was a joke, I said. I know, she said. I liked it. She walked through the house. She saw Susan's photo upright on the mantel. She saw the guest room Trevor and Emily had taken over. She saw the boxes stacked in the workshop, most labeled in Trevor's handwriting. She saw the lock Trevor had installed on the side gate without my permission. Mr. Hayes, she said at the end, standing on my porch. I have done this work for a long time. I know neglect. I know cognitive decline. I also know pressure. You are not the person described in the report. I gripped the porch rail. Will that be in writing? Yes. And I will note that the report appears connected to an active financial dispute. If further malicious reports are made, that can have consequences. I thanked her. After she drove away, I stood in the doorway and shook so hard my teeth clicked. Tell me honestly, if your own child watched this happen, would you forgive silence or call it betrayal? That sentence sat in my mind all afternoon like a stone. I loved Emily. That did not erase what she had allowed. Love and anger can live in the same room. They had been sharing space in my chest for years. Dana used the APS report like a hammer. She sent it to the Lottery Review Board, along with the police report, the bank letter, the receipt, my debit card proof, and statements from Gary and Patricia. Trevor hired a lawyer from Portland named Miles Kettering who wore narrow suits and talked like every word was billed separately. The lottery scheduled a formal review meeting in Salem. The morning of the review, I wore my cleanest blue shirt and Susan's old wedding ring on a chain under it. Gary drove me because he said he refused to miss Trevor getting legally skinned. The review room was not dramatic. No wood paneling, no judge's bench, just a conference table, a state lottery attorney, a claims supervisor, a recorder, and too much fluorescent light. Trevor arrived in a charcoal suit. Emily came with him, pale and quiet. Miles Kettering opened a leather folder and looked at me with professional pity. Mr. Hayes, he said, my clients hope we can resolve this without further harm to the family. Dana smiled. Your client forged a power of attorney. Let's not pretend harm is a weather event. The claims supervisor, Miss Ralston, began. Miles spoke first. He said I bought a ticket and gifted it to Emily. He said a gift is a gift. He said an old man regretted generosity when it became valuable. He said my dispute was emotional, vindictive, and fueled by grief. Trevor nodded along like a churchgoer hearing scripture. Then Dana placed my receipt on the table. 2 tickets, she said. Same transaction, same debit card, same purchaser, Mr. Hayes. Miss Ralston leaned forward. Dana placed the bank letter beside it. Attempted forged power of attorney by Mr. Reed. Rejected by the bank. Trevor's smile thinned. Dana placed the police report beside that. Open fraud investigation. Miles shifted in his chair. Dana placed the APS report last. Malicious elder risk report, unsupported by evidence, filed during the dispute. The room changed. You could feel it. Trevor had walked in expecting a fight over a lottery ticket. Dana had made it a pattern of coercion. Miss Ralston looked at Trevor. Mr. Reed, Did you submit a power of attorney to Mr. Hayes's bank? Miles raised a hand. My client will not answer questions about an unrelated matter, Dana said. It is related if the purpose was to seize control of the claimant's finances during a disputed payout. Trevor leaned forward. This is ridiculous. Martin is confused. He has been confused for years. He talks to his dead wife. He hoards junk. He isolates. He manipulated Emily into feeling sorry for him. Emily looked at him then. Not at me. At him. Something in her face shifted, like a locked window cracking open. Miss Ralston asked her, Mrs. Reed, when your father handed you the ticket, did he say the prize would be yours if it won? Emily swallowed. Trevor stared at her. Emily, he said softly. Too softly. Miss Ralston repeated, please answer. Emily's hands trembled. No, he just said Gary made him buy them, and that I could have one. Did he ask for money? No. Did he threaten you? No. Did he ever tell you he wanted you and your husband out of his house before the winning ticket? Tears filled her eyes. No. He let us stay. For years. He never even raised the rent because there was no rent. Trevor snapped. Emily, stop. She turned on him. No. You stop. The room froze. Trevor's face drained. Emily looked at Miss Ralston. My father didn't confuse anything. Trevor did. Trevor kept saying Dad resented us. Trevor said Dad talked about us behind our backs. Trevor said if we didn't take control now, Dad would leave everything to some charity or neighbor. I believed him because it was easier than admitting we were using my father. Trevor stood. She is unstable. Emily laughed through tears. That's rich. You called my father unstable because he wouldn't hand you a house. Miles Kettering stood too. We need a recess. Dana leaned back. Take all the time you need. The documents will still be here when you return. They did not return the same way. Miles came back alone first. He asked for a private word with his client. Trevor refused. Miles looked at the lottery attorney and said, given the emergence of potentially criminal conduct and conflicting testimony, I am withdrawing from representation after this session. Trevor stared at him. You can't do that. Miles closed his folder. Watch me. He left. I will remember Trevor's face until I die. Not because it was dramatic, but because it was empty. Men like Trevor do not fear being wrong. They fear being seen. Miss Ralston ended the review with a short statement. The claim would be recognized as belonging to the original purchaser unless a court ordered otherwise. Because I held the second winning ticket and had proof that both tickets were bought by me, the lottery would process my claim after verification. Emily's ticket would not be paid to Trevor or Emily without a court ruling. Dana whispered that the practical effect was simple. Trevor had lost the money. Trevor stepped toward me in the hallway afterward. You think you won? He said. Gary moved beside me, but I lifted a hand. Trevor's voice dropped. You turned your own daughter against me. You lonely, bitter old corpse. I looked at him. No, Trevor. I just stopped financing your costume. He had no answer for that. The police did, though. 2 weeks later, Officer Reeves called. The bank had provided video and intake records. Trevor had personally submitted the forged power of attorney. They had handwriting comparison. They had emails from Trevor to an online document service asking how quickly power of attorney changes could be recognized by banks. They had text messages to a friend saying, "Old man is sitting on accounts and land. Once Emily and I control the paperwork, he can yell from assisted living." That text did more damage than anything else. Dana filed for a protective order. We also filed eviction paperwork. Oregon law gave them notice. Dana made sure every step was clean. I did not shout. I did not touch their things. I did not lock them out. Trevor wanted chaos because chaos makes victims look unstable. I gave him procedure. When the sheriff served the papers, Trevor punched the hallway wall hard enough to crack plaster. Emily came downstairs 20 minutes later with a small suitcase. I am going to Patricia's, she said. Just for tonight. Trevor laughed. Of course, run to the pity committee. She looked at him with a tiredness I recognized. I am done being your echo. His face twisted. Without me, you are nothing. You haven't worked in years. You have no money, no plan, no spine. She gripped the suitcase handle. I said, "She has a door." "That's more than you offered her." Trevor pointed at me. "You ruined her." "No," Emily said. "You just hate that I can hear my own voice again." She walked out. He moved out before the formal deadline because criminal charges make arrogance expensive. A white moving truck came on a cold morning. Trevor barked at the movers, accused one of stealing a gaming console, and kept looking at the driveway as if cameras might appear. Maybe they did. Neighbors had windows. Bend is quiet, not blind. Before he left, he stood at my workshop door. "You'll die alone in this ugly house," he said. I was sharpening a chisel. "Maybe," I said, "but you'll need permission to visit your own mailbox soon." His face changed. "What does that mean?" "Ask your lawyer." "Oh, wait." He slammed the truck door so hard the driver cursed. The lottery money processed after verification. $87 million is a number so large, it stops feeling like money and starts feeling like weather. Dana introduced me to a financial advisor. I paid taxes. I secured accounts. I changed my estate plan. I set aside money for Emily, not as a reward, not as hush money, but in a protected trust she could access only after completing financial counseling and staying separated from Trevor. Dana said it sounded strict. I said love without boundaries is just another unlocked door. Then I did the thing Trevor never expected. I sold the house. Not to him. Not to a developer. I sold it to a young couple from Redmond with 2 kids and a rescue dog that immediately peed on the maple tree. They loved the yellow curtains. The wife said they made the kitchen feel warm. I included them in the sale. Emily cried when I told her. "I thought you'd never leave," she said. "I am not leaving Susan," I said. "I am leaving the battlefield. There is a difference." I bought a smaller house near the Deschutes River, with a workshop out back and a porch facing cottonwoods. I brought Susan's photos, her recipe box, her gardening gloves, and the cedar box I had finished during the worst week of my life. The old house had held our memories. It did not have to hold my pain forever. Trevor was indicted on forgery and attempted financial exploitation charges. He took a plea when the evidence became too heavy to pretend around. Restitution, probation, a suspended sentence with conditions, public record, professional humiliation, and a restraining order that kept him away from me. It was not a movie prison ending. It was better in a way. Every background check would remember him. Every job interview would ask. Every new room he entered would be a little less his to control. Emily filed for divorce. It was not clean. People think freedom arrives like sunlight. Sometimes it arrives as paperwork, shaking hands, unpaid bills, and mornings where you have to remind yourself not to answer the old text. Trevor called her cruel, then unstable, then brainwashed, then greedy. He tried every button he had installed in her. Some still worked, most did not. She got a job at a dental office in Bend. Front desk at first, nothing glamorous. She came home tired and embarrassed and proud in the same breath. Patricia helped her find an apartment. Gary taught her how to check tire pressure. I helped her build a small bookshelf, and for the first time in years, we worked beside each other without Trevor's shadow standing between us. One evening, she came to my new porch with takeout tacos and sat across from me as the river moved behind the trees. "Dad," she said, "why did you still help me?" "Because you are my daughter." "After what I did?" "Yes." "I let him hurt you." "Yes." She looked down. I did not soften it. She needed truth, not a blanket. "Forgiveness does not mean I pretend you were brave," I said. "It means I am giving you a chance to become brave now." She cried quietly. "Do you hate me?" she asked. "No." "Do you trust me?" I looked at the river for a long moment. Not yet. That hurt her. I saw it. But she nodded. "Fair," she said. "Good," I said. "Fair is where we start." Months passed. Trevor became a voice from another room, then a paper trail, then a cautionary story people told with raised eyebrows. Emily kept going to work. She kept therapy appointments. She learned to pay her own rent. She paid me back for a small loan, even though I told her the trust could cover it later. She said, "I need to know I can do it." So I took the check and put it in a drawer. Gary still came over too often. Patricia still fed everyone like grief could be reduced with enough butter. Denise Howard, the caseworker, sent a card after the protective order was finalized. It said, "Some homes survive because someone finally locks the right door." I framed it in the workshop. As for the money, I used part of it to start the Susan Hayes Home Safety Fund through a local nonprofit. We paid for ramps, grab bars, roof repairs, furnace replacements, and legal consultations for older people being pressured by relatives who smiled while asking for signatures. I did not put my face on billboards. I did not give interviews. I just wrote checks and reviewed reports because paper still matters. One afternoon, Dana called me. "You should know," she said. "Trevor tried to challenge the trust terms in the divorce negotiations." I laughed. "Can he?" "No." "Did he enjoy hearing that?" "Deeply no." That night, Emily came over for dinner. We made Susan's chicken stew. Emily chopped carrots unevenly. I complained. She told me she was doing emotional healing, not culinary school. I laughed so hard I had to sit down. After dinner, she washed the dishes. I dried. She looked at the yellow recipe card in Susan's handwriting and said, "Mom would have hated Trevor. Your mother had a polite way of hating people." Emily smiled. She would have said, "That man brings drafts into warm rooms." Exactly. Then Emily said, "I miss her." May too. I think I hid behind Trevor because missing her made me feel like a child. Grief does that. And you were grieving too. I didn't see it. You saw what he told you to see. She nodded. "I'm learning to look again," she said. That was the first sentence that sounded like hope without begging. A year after Trevor told me to leave my own house, Emily and I planted lavender at my new place. Not because I was trying to recreate the old walkway, because Susan loved lavender, and because some things deserve to keep growing in different soil. Emily knelt in the dirt, hair tied back, sleeves rolled. She pressed soil around the roots and looked at me. "Dad?" "Yeah. Thank you for not giving him the ending he wanted." I thought about that. Trevor wanted several endings. He wanted the house. He wanted the money. He wanted my daughter quiet. He wanted me labeled weak, confused, disposable. He wanted Susan erased because the dead cannot argue with a remodel. He wanted a clean story where he was the smart man and I was the old fool in the way. He got none of it. I kept my name. I kept my mind. I kept the ticket. I kept enough anger to protect myself and enough love not to become him. He confused patience with permission, I said. Emily looked up. That was his mistake. She smiled faintly. "And yours?" I pressed a lavender plant into the ground. Thinking silence was peace. We worked until sunset. The river air cooled. My knees hurt. My hands smelled like soil. For the first time in a long time, the quiet around me did not feel like abandonment. It felt earned. I still talk to Susan sometimes, usually in the morning when the coffee is hot and the porch is empty. I tell her Emily is trying. I tell her Gary still thinks he is funny. I tell her Trevor is not allowed within a long legal distance of my life. I tell her the fund helped a widow in Prineville replace a furnace before winter. I tell her the lavender took. And sometimes I tell her I am sorry. Sorry I let the old house become a stage for someone else's cruelty. Sorry I mistook Emily's silence for something permanent. Sorry I waited until Trevor put a brochure on my kitchen table before I remembered I was still allowed to fight. But regret is not a house either. You can visit it. You cannot live there. People ask what changed me. They expect me to say the money. It was not the money. Money made the fight louder, faster, cleaner on paper, but the real change happened in a bedroom, with a lottery ticket under my fingers and my dead wife's glasses beside it. I realized Trevor had built his whole plan on one belief, that I would be too ashamed, too tired, too lonely, or too polite to defend myself. That is how people like him win. They do not need you to agree. They only need you to stay quiet long enough for their version of events to harden around you. I did not stay quiet. The last time I saw Trevor in person was outside the county courthouse after his plea hearing. He looked thinner, less glossy. His tie was crooked. Emily had already gone ahead to her car. Dana stood beside me. Trevor stopped a few feet away. "Hope it was worth it," he said. "All this just to prove a point." I looked at him for a moment. The old me would have explained. The old me would have tried to make him understand the house. Susan. Emily. Dignity. Fear. The way his words had landed. But Trevor did not want understanding. He wanted a crack to pour poison into. So I gave him nothing. It was, I said. 2 words. That was all. His face tightened. He walked away. Dana smiled without looking at me. Clean. I learned from the best. No, she said. You learned late. There's a difference. She was right. Now I live by the river. I still drive the same old truck because it starts every morning and Trevor would hate that. Emily comes by on Sundays when she can. Sometimes we cook. Sometimes we argue about nothing. Sometimes we sit quietly. And the silence is no longer a weapon. I have more money than I ever imagined. But the richest thing I own is a front door nobody can use against me. My name is on the deed. My accounts are locked. My trust is clear. My daughter knows that love is not a blank check. And I know that being old does not mean being available for erasure. There is one piece people rarely ask about. They ask about the jackpot. They ask about Trevor's face in the review room. They ask whether Emily and I are close now. They ask if I miss the old house. Almost nobody asks what it felt like during the nights between each move, when nothing had been decided, and every floorboard sounded like a footstep coming for me. I kept a notebook during that time because Dana told me to. Date. Time. Words spoken. Who was present? I wrote like a man building a fence 1 post at a time. Trevor called me senile at breakfast. Trevor told Emily I was faking weakness. Trevor moved my mail from the entry table to his office. Trevor asked if I remembered where I put my debit card while his hand was on his own pocket. The notebook made the fear smaller. It gave it edges. A fear with edges can be placed in a folder. A folder can be copied. A copy can be handed to an attorney. That sounds cold, but cold saved me. Hot anger would have given Trevor what he wanted. He wanted a scene. He wanted me red-faced and shouting so he could say, "See? This is what I mean." He is unstable, so when he baited me, I answered less. When he insulted Susan, I left the room. When he laughed at my hands shaking, I wrote it down. When he told Emily I was punishing her because I hated her happiness, I wrote that down too. The pages filled. Trevor had built a trap with words. I built a ladder with records. One night, I found Emily sitting alone on the porch steps. Trevor was upstairs on the phone, bragging to someone about waterfront property they were going to tour once the old situation was handled. Emily had a blanket around her shoulders. She looked 12 years old in the porch light. "You cold?" I asked. She shook her head. I sat 2 steps away, not too close. For a while, we watched a moth throw itself at the porch light. "Dad," she said, "was Mom ever scared of you?" The question hit me so hard I could not answer it first. "No," I said finally. "Why would you ask that?" She wiped her cheek with her sleeve. "Trevor said sometimes men like you look gentle because nobody challenges them. He said Mom probably spent years managing your moods." I laughed once because the alternative was breaking. "Your mother once threw a wet sponge at me because I bought the wrong coffee filters." She did not manage my moods. She managed the household because she was better at it and because she liked bossing me around. Emily almost smiled. "He says I don't remember things right," she whispered. "He needs you unsure. Unsure people are easier to steer." She pulled the blanket tighter. I let him throw away Mom's blue mixing bowl. I remembered that bowl. Susan used it every Thanksgiving. I thought it had cracked. That was what Emily told me years earlier. "Why?" He said it was chipped and ugly. I said you would be upset. He said that was the point, that everyone was tired of arranging the house around your grief. The porch light buzzed. "I looked for that bowl," I said. "I know." She started crying, but quietly, like she had trained herself not to be heard. I wanted to hug her. I did not. Not then. The air between us was full of things that needed names first. "Emily," I said, "I can forgive a bowl. I can forgive silence if you start telling the truth. But I cannot forgive you back into danger. You have to walk out of it yourself." She nodded. The next morning she denied the conversation when Trevor asked why her eyes were swollen. I heard her lie from the kitchen. It hurt, but not the way it used to. That was the morning I understood she was not free yet. A person can see the door and still not have the strength to touch the knob. During the lottery review, when Emily finally spoke, people later called it brave. It was brave. But bravery is not born in public. It starts in private, in ugly little seconds. When a person admits the story they have been defending is killing them. Emily had started on that porch. The review room was just where the world heard it. After Trevor left, I found the blue mixing bowl in a cardboard box in the garage. It had not been thrown away. It had been hidden under paint rollers, old extension cords, and a camping stove Trevor never used. The chip was small. Susan would have laughed at it. I washed it carefully and gave it to Emily when she moved into her apartment. She held it like it was glass. "I don't deserve this," she said. "Probably not," I said. She looked startled. "But deserving is not the only reason people receive things," I said. "Sometimes they receive them so they remember who they were before someone taught them to be smaller." She cried into the bowl. I pretended to look for shelf brackets until she was done. That is the part I never put in the legal file. Not everything important belongs in evidence. Some things belong in the hands of the person trying to come back to herself. So now, I want to ask you, because I still think about it when the porch gets quiet, was I right to freeze the claim, report Trevor, evict them, and make him lose everything he tried to steal? Or should I have protected my daughter from the fallout even after she stood there and let him tell me to leave my own home?